And what happens next is that they go back home, and he says, I'll prove it's true if you just bring your brother Benjamin. Just bring your youngest brother Benjamin, then I'll know I'll know the whole story is true. So they go home to the father. The father says, I'm not sending Benjamin. They run out of food, and they send Benjamin. There's no choice. And here is where our story continues to take place in this week's parsha. Father, remember, he did not want to send Benjamin because he said, you're ready. Last time I sent Yosef to you guys to check up on you, and Yosef died. And then I sent Shimon with you now, and now you return without Shimon because Yosef was holding Shimon prisoner until they brought back the younger brother to prove that their story was true. And now I'm not sending Benjamin, but he had no choice. Ayar Yosef itam es Binyamin, verse 16. Yosef sees that they brought Binyamin. Now, that's obviously very special to Yosef because Benjamin was the same brother from the mother. He's a brother not just from his father, but he's a brother from his mother. Vayomer la'asher al beisai, and he says to the guy, the manager, the overseer of his house, Havi hanoshim, these guys that came for food, bring them to my house. Bring them to which is extremely unusual. Yosef is the viceroy of Egypt, and there are people coming to Yosef from all over the world to get food. He never tells them, bring the guy home, bring the guest home. Bring them to my house, utvoyach tevach, and slaughter animals. We're going to have a barbecue. We're going to have a good steak meal. Because I'm going to do something extremely unusual. These people who came to Egypt to get food are going to come to my house to eat with me. And this is all going to be a setup. We'll see what Yosef is going to do to them. We'll see soon. And we're going to have a big meal, as Rashi says, like a major meal or an afternoon meal. This is like a big lunch, a very special lunch meal. So Vayasa Ish, so the manager of Yosef's house did as he said, Kashem Yosef, Vayavi Ish as Anashim Beis Yosef. He goes over to these Jews who were suspected, remember, of criminal activity against the country. And he brings them to Yosef's living quarters, to his house, to his home. Not in the regular business area. He invites them to his actual house. Yiru Anashim, and the brothers see that they're being brought to Yosef's house. Kiuva Beis Yosef, they're coming to Yosef's home. And they start to get very scared, very afraid. Al Dvar HaKesef, we are getting in big trouble. There's some plot. There's some conspiracy here being planned out in this story. Al Dvar HaKesef Asher Hashav Ba'am Tachtoiseinu B'tchila Anachnu Muvoim L'Yisgoyla L'Aleinu L'Yisnap L'Aleinu L'Kachas Yisanu L'Avodim Vas Hamirenu. This is a plot, and they already know in their heads what the plot is, why they're ending up in Yosef's house. And they're saying that if you remember from yesterday's Chumash, 2 days ago, that when Yosef sent the brothers home, he put money that they used to buy the food in Egypt back into their bags. And when they came home and they saw that all the money was returned, they said that we know Yosef was already treating them very not nicely. They don't know it's Yosef. The viceroy of Egypt is looking to accuse them of crimes they didn't do. And now that the money that they paid is returned back into their bags, there's probably a very serious claim about to be brought against us. And on top of that, he's inviting us to his house. Why would he invite common people coming to buy food that he's accusing of being terrorists to his home? And they're getting really scared. Rashi says the viceroy, the second in command, never brings people in his house to eat with him, to rest and relax in his house. Rashi says there was hotels in the city. You can imagine people traveling from all over the world. It was probably a major business, like when you have the Super Bowl, all the hotels are sold out, and everyone's building hotels and they're sold out. Everybody was coming to Egypt. There was probably a major business of hotels where people could stay over when they go to buy their food in Egypt. But here, the viceroy of Egypt is inviting these guys to his house. And why is he doing it? He's coming to arrest us, probably, for the money that we stole. He's coming to say, where's the money? How come you never paid? Oh, it's back in your bags. And they're very, very scared. So verse 19, Vayikshu el ha'ish. So they went to the manager, this guy that Yosef told them to invite them to his house. Asher al Beis Yosef, that's on the house of Yosef. Vayidabru Elav Pesach Habayis, and they spoke to him at the door to the house, to the home. Spoke to him at the door. They didn't want to come inside. They made the guy come outside, but they didn't want to speak to him. Vayomru, and they said to the manager, Yosef's manager, Bi Adoni, please, my master. They're already convinced the reason they're being called is because of the monetary claim that they never paid for the goods that they purchased. And they say, please, my master, this is, listen, we came here last time to get food. Please, we're begging you, listen to us. We were actually wealthy people once upon a time. We used to provide our town, Rashi says, with food. And now we're here coming to Egypt begging for food. This is a very humiliating, humbling experience for us that we, who were the providers for everybody around us, now need to come to you to Egypt. So we're coming here asking for food. And then what happened was we came to Egypt, we got our food. And then on the way back from Egypt, we stopped at our motel. And not knowing, we had no clue. We opened up our bags in the hotel. And everybody's money is in his bag. The exact money that we gave out to pay for the food we found in our bags, we had no idea. We promised, we're telling you, this was not a malicious attack. We don't know why we're being called to Yosef's house now. We think maybe this is why, and here we're being like tortured here. This is a plot that's trying to get us caught up as if we stole the money. The money was put back. We just found out when we got back to our hotel after buying the food is when we realized that there was money in our bags. Look, and we brought money back with us to purchase food. We brought new money. I'm sorry, the money that we originally brought down when we went to purchase it the first time, we don't know who put it back in our bags. And you know, like we're really pure here. We didn't do anything wrong. So the manager tells them, Shalom Lachem, he says, peace unto you. Don't be afraid. I don't know why you think that's why you're coming to Yosef's house. Al Tiro, don't be afraid. God, your God and God of your fathers. God somehow magically put the money back in your bags. Your money was, we were paid. I don't know how your money got back in your bags. We got paid. This is not what it's about you coming to Yosef's house. When you came down originally, you gave us the finances necessary to purchase the food. And now, and we got that money. That money came through. The checks cashed, deposited. And we gave you, and the money that you saw in your bag that you spent on the food that came back to you, somehow God made a miracle and gave it back to you. And in your merit or in your father's merit, somehow that money came back. So now they calm down. They're like, okay, we'll come and eat in Yosef's house. We don't know why we're invited to his personal house. And they bring in the people, Beis Yosef, to the house of Yosef. And he gives them food. And they wash their feet. And he fed their donkeys. So there was like a whole stable for the donkeys that the brothers came with to bring back all the food. And they're not scared anymore. Originally, they didn't want to come into the house. They're like, come out, we want to speak to you outside. And now they're like, no, we're coming in, fine, we see it's not so scary like we thought. And they prepared a gift, as we learned in yesterday's or 2 days of Chumash, that Yaakov, their father, prepared pistachios or maybe peaches. And they found different kinds of things from Israel that grew there that were like prominent things. So they prepare the gift, Adba Yosef, until Yosef will come home in the afternoon, come home for lunch to eat with them lunch. Because they heard that that's where the meal's going to be. So Yosef's in his palace, wherever Yosef worked or sat and so on. Yosef's coming home for lunch. The manager gets Yosef's brothers and he brings them to Yosef's house to be ready. So when Yosef comes home for lunch, Yosef's going to eat with you lunch. So the viceroy, the mighty viceroy of Egypt, Yosef comes into the house. And they bring to this viceroy their gift that they brought to Sherbi Yadam, and they bow down to the floor to him. So they go from the anteroom to the reception hall, big fancy house probably that Yosef lives in, and they bow down to show their submission to Yosef. They bow down on the floor to show that they're servants of the viceroy of Egypt. And he asked these 10 guys, Yosef asks them, "No, what's going on? How are you guys doing? And how's your older father that you told me last time? Is he still alive? Remember, I asked you about your dad last time. You told me you had this old dad. How's he doing? Is he still alive?" They said, "Yes, peace unto him. Our father's still alive." And they bowed and they prostrated themselves again. He says, "Thank you so much for asking about our dad." And they bow down again in respect and submission to Yosef. They bow down on the floor. And Yosef lifts his eyes, and who does he see that's here this time that wasn't here last time with them? Yaris Binyamin, and he sees his younger brother, Benjamin, there. Ben Imoy, Achiv Ben Imoy, his brother, the son of his mother. And Yosef says, "Is that your younger brother? Ashar Martin may lie that you told me that he's alive." And he says, "May Hashem bless you that you should find grace. You should be appeasing to other people. You should be graceful in other people's eyes." But you marry Yosef. And Yosef quickly went. Because he was losing himself, Yosef. His mercy was stirring within him. Al-Achav on his brother. He sees his younger brother. And he felt the need to cry. But he didn't want his brothers to see. He wasn't ready to tell them yet that he's Yosef. He went into a room, a side room in his house. He left the room where he was with his brothers, and he goes into a side room and he cries there. Rashi tells us, why was Yosef crying? What happened that the Torah doesn't tell us that Yosef started weeping? He started crying. What happened in the room specifically, besides obviously meeting his brothers? What happened over there? So Rashi says that there was a conversation, which the Torah doesn't tell us, but we have in the oral tradition, between Yosef and Binyamin. So when he sees his Benjamin, he's the same brother, and he asks Binyamin, he says, "Benjamin, do you have any brothers from your mother?" So he says, "Yes, I had a brother." Obviously, he doesn't know it's Yosef, but I don't know where he went. He disappeared. I had a brother, and he just disappeared. And then Yosef says, "Do you have any children?" He says, "I got 10 sons." So Yosef says, "And what's their names?" Obviously, he's very interested in the details. He wants to know how his brother from his mother is doing. So he tells them the 10 names. Each of the names he told them, Yosef asked, "What's the meaning of the names?" And each of the names and the meaning was how much he misses his older brother who disappeared. Basically, this younger brother was very close to his older brother, and he named his 10 children reflecting his older brother Yosef. And Yosef couldn't handle it anymore. It was too much for him. He had to run out of the room and cry because, again, he wasn't ready yet to tell them he was Yosef. But after hearing that his brother named his 10 children, all names referencing the loss of his idol, his older brother, he started to cry. What were the names? Rashi, I'll go through quickly. Rashi tells us the names. He called him Bella. Bella, I guess like Bella today. Bella, it means swallowed up, that my older brother was swallowed up between the nations. And his second son's name was Becher. Becher comes from the word Bechor, firstborn, meaning he misses the firstborn son to his mother, his older brother. The next one was Eshbael, that comes from the word Shashavukel, that God made him captain. The fourth brother's name was Gara, Shenisgayer Bachsanya, that he became like a stranger in a strange place. The next one was Namon, which means he was No'im B'Yoser. He was especially special person, his older brother. Achi v'Rosh. Achi means my brother, and Rosh means my head. I lost my brother and my head. He called him Mupim, which means Mipi Aviv Lamad, which means he learned from my father. And Chupim, he didn't see my chuppah. He never saw me get married, and I never saw him get married. Ve'erd, that he comes from the word Yara, that he went down between the nations. So all the names that his younger brother Benjamin gave was all in memory of his lost older brother, referencing Yosef. And Yosef went crazy. When he heard this, he couldn't handle it anymore. He started to cry, but he didn't want his brothers to see, so he ran out of the room. Verse 31, so he washes his face. His eyes are red, blotched, and his face is red. He washes his face, and he says, comes back to the room, and he says, let's serve the food. Serve the food, let's have the meal. And Yosef does something amazing. Now, they don't know he's Yosef, but he knows all of them. So he put himself separately, Ulehem Levadam, and the brothers separately, Ulemitzriyim, and to the Egyptians who were also at that meal. It was a big lunch they're having over there. He put the Egyptians on themselves. Why? Why is he separating the Egyptians from the Jews? Because Egyptians and Jews can't eat together. Because it's an abomination to Egyptians. Why is it an abomination to Egyptians to eat with the Jews? Because the Jews eat the idols of the Egyptians, is one of the reasons given. The Jews eat the idols because who the Jews serve, who the Jews eat are what the Egyptians serve. So let's say they were eating goat or whatever it is, sheep, those were considered food for the Jews, and they were considered the god of the Egyptians, and therefore the Jews and the Egyptians, what's one of the commentaries explained, couldn't eat together. But yes, for the fun of Abu Khair. So Yosef is doing the seating. You know when you have a big meal and you got to do the seating arrangements? So Yosef does the seating arrangements. He sits the firstborn according to their age. He lines everybody up. And the young with the young. He says, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zavulun, you all sit together, literally in age order. And the brothers are sitting there in shock. How does this guy know who's older, who's younger? How does he know? The men looked at each other. How in the world does this guy know who's Reuven? How does he know who's first and who's second in age order? So Rashi says, interesting, that he had a cup that he claimed, we're going to see soon, that he had this cup that he claimed was magic, that was giving him a goblet, like an expensive, tall goblet, a wine goblet or some kind of drink cup that he claimed he got magic from, gave him information. So he's like, I'm getting all my information here. I know who's older or younger. I know everything about you guys. Really, he knows everything about them. But anyway, he lines everybody up. He says, you're from this mother, you sit together. You from this mother, you sit together. He knew everybody. What about Benjamin, he said. Benjamin's an only child. He has no brothers. He says, you know what? I'm also an only child. So me and Benjamin, we're going to sit together. We don't have anybody else with our mother. Really, he's sitting next to his brother. But anyway, he arranges the table seating perfectly. Age order, by mother order. He has the whole table, this big lunch with all these brothers here lined up correctly. By Yisum Asayis Meis, Panav, and the porters, he brought portions to each of them. Vateirav Masas B'yam and Masas Kulam. He gives Benjamin, his brother from his mother, the largest portion. Chomesh Yades, 5 times more than the rest of the brothers. Vayishtu v'yishkuru imay, they went, they drank, and they became intoxicated, they became shikar. Now, why is Benjamin getting 5 times more than the rest of the brothers? I'm not sure I understood the Rashi correctly here, but it seems like he's saying he's getting 1 portion for being one of the brothers. He's getting 1 from Yosef, 1 from Yosef's wife, 1 from Menashe, and 1 from Ephraim, from his 2 children. Anyway, the bottom line is Yosef is getting more than the rest of the brothers. But Yishkru Ima, they became drunk with him. Rashi says something interesting here. The brothers never drank wine since the day that Yosef was sold. They were in mourning. They never drank wine since the day that Yosef was sold. Here was the first time, not knowing there with Yosef, that they drank wine. And I saw in the commentaries, why are they drinking wine if they had a resolution not to drink wine? So simply you could say not to offend Yosef, because when the king is offering you wine, the viceroy of Egypt is offering you wine, you drink the wine. The other reason, as I saw in the commentary, said something interesting, that they thought it might be a test from Yosef to see if they're lying. How do you find out if a guy's lying? You get him drunk, and then he's not scared to say the truth. So had they not drunk the wine, the viceroy would have suspected that they had information to hide. So they had no choice but to drink the wine. So although they never drank wine out of mourning for Yosef since the day that they sold him, Yosef never drank wine too. Yosef now drank wine because he knew he was with his brothers. And the brothers, not knowing that they were with Yosef, drank wine because they had to, because if the king offered you wine, you couldn't not drink wine because he'll suspect that maybe you have something to hide. Anyway, and he told the person in charge of his house, saying, listen to this plot over here. He says, fill up all my brothers' animals with food. Kasher Yuchlun says as much as it could hold. Load up their donkeys and all their animals, whatever they have, fill them up with food. And on top of that, give back their money. Everybody's money that they brought here, put the money back inside their bags. And that cup that I'm using to pretend it's my magical cup, that's very precious to me, and put it in the youngest one's package, in his brother Benjamin's package. That's kesef shivru, and the money, kesef shivru, and the money that they used to purchase food. And they did, like Yosef said. So Yosef is planning a secret plot over here. It was the morning. They left, so they slept over the night. In the morning, they have all their packages. Yosef gave them, loaded up their animals with all the money back in it, and hidden in Benjamin's sack, unbeknown to anyone, is the brothers, is Yosef's secret his special goblet. They left the city, not far. As soon as they leave the city in Egypt, where they were, the capital, the Yosef Amar La'asher al-Beisa, Yosef quickly tells his manager, go run after these people. We sacked them, catch up to them. They just left not long ago. And say to them, why are you paying me back for been so nice to you? I gave you right, he took care of them so nicely. Why are you paying me good with bad? That special cup that I drank from, that I'm able to know the divinities from. The evil, I know if you're going to try to steal something from me. I know if you're going to hurt me, I'm going to figure it out. By see game, and he caught up to them, and he told them these words to Yosef's brothers who left. So the brothers say to the manager of the house, why are you speaking like that, Eila? God forbid, why would we ever steal Yosef's cup from him? Why? What did we do? That's God forbid for us to do something like that. Kesef, verse 8. We just returned the money. We came back as soon as we got it. We told you there was extra money in our bags when we left the first time. We brought it back to you. We're such honest people. We could have made up that we never took the money. Why would we steal some of the possessions from Yosef's house, the silver goblet? Why would we want to steal that? We are returning money that we didn't have, that we could have got away with, and we're telling you we got extra money by mistake, and we're giving it back to you. Why would we, when we leave Yosef's house, now steal his silver goblet with us? You see, Yosef created a whole plan here to invite them over, give them a big meal, and then accuse them of stealing the goblet from his house. So the brothers don't believe that anybody stole it, because they don't know that it was hidden in one of their bags. So he says, whichever one of us you find it, go check our bags. Shall die. And we will all be slaves to our master. We'll take responsibility. It's not true. Nobody stole anything. If you find a silver goblet in our possessions, that guy should get the death penalty, and the rest of us will be your servants. Done deal. Because we didn't take it. So he says, fine, like your words, deal. If we find it, he's in trouble. However, I don't agree that everyone should be slaves. Only part of what you said. Only the guy who we found the goblet in his, only he's going to now be a slave. I'm not going to kill him. He'll be my slave. Everybody else should go. Yosef is doing this plot so that he'll arrest Binyamin, and the brothers will have to defend Benjamin. And what's going to happen with that is, Yosef will see that the brothers are going to regret the fact that they sold him, because now they're defending his younger brother. So quickly, they took off each their own bag. They were very strong. They were able to unload these massive packages from their donkey, and they opened each one up, each his bags. They started searching first in the oldest brother, not to let on that they knew that it was really in the youngest one. They didn't go directly to the youngest one, because then they'll figure out. They started by the oldest brother. Reuven, let's start with you. And they finished in the youngest one. And they found the cup in Benjamin's packages. And now there's major trouble going to happen. They know they're in big trouble.
Does the Midrash say that this is Yosef's son, either Menashe or Ephraim, that's leading the search?
I did see it here, but it's interesting. I thought that we did learn the other day that Menashe was the translator. So I didn't see, I was wondering that myself, if that perhaps was Menashe, but I don't know. I didn't see that anywhere. I don't know who is the manager they're referring to that's leading. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Good, great point though. But Yikrusim Laisa, man, the brothers don't know where to bury themselves now. They rip their clothes. And each one loaded his donkey. They shuva ira and they returned to the city. They're in big trouble now. They're very strong. They're able to load their donkeys by themselves back again. And they come back to the city, to the metropolitan of Egypt, here to this big city. And however, they're ready to fight, as Rashi tells us, if they need over their dead body, basically. They're going to take on, they don't care how big the city of Egypt is, they're going to take on the city if they need to. So Yehuda, led by Yehuda, the brothers go back to the house of Yosef. And he's there, and Yehuda falls on the ground. Yosef was waiting for them there, waiting for these people that stole his cup. And Yehuda falls on the floor. And Yosef says to the mass, what kind of act? How do you guys behave yourselves? Asher Sisim that you've done. You think I wouldn't know? A person who knows magic like I do would not know that you stole my cup? Somebody at my level, you think you're going to get away with stealing my cup? So Yehuda says, what can I say? What words? What should I tell you? How can we exonerate ourselves? God is punishing us over here. This is a punishment for the fact that we have sold our brother Yosef. This is all retribution from God. God found the chance to pay us back. You know, like when someone's waiting to repay his enemy who did a terrible thing to him, he waits for the moment. Eventually it'll come. Here Hashem has been waiting to teach us a lesson. He says, we're all your slaves now, all of us, every brother, Benjamin and us, we're all going to be your slaves now. He says, God forbid, is from doing this. Only the guy who stole it. Why should all the brothers be in trouble? Only Benjamin who stole it. Will be my slave. You go back home, take your food and go back home to your father. So Yosef literally plotted this whole thing in order to get them to need to defend Benjamin. So basically, they're going to have to stand up for Benjamin. It's a fascinating story. So I want to bring up what Jarisho asked yesterday. I mean, I think it's a good question. I'm probably going to address it in next week, Tuesday night, Parsha class. Who is Yosef? How does Yosef have the right to play God in teaching his brothers a lesson in how they should behave? It's a very interesting question that we need to address. But you really see how Yosef is really setting it up for making the brothers now need to defend Benjamin. He really plotted out this thing well to have Benjamin now be locked up and they all go and let's see what they're going to do about it. I think that's where Yosef brought the situation to. Any questions or comments on today's Chumash before we move on to Tanya? Yes, Mitchell.
How is it that the Egyptians let the Hebrews devour their idols? I mean, it's like killing their God, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. We're going to see more about this in the Chumash in a little while. But it seems like Rashi's telling you that maybe they weren't eating meat right there, but Jews and Egyptians would not eat together. That was like they would not eat together because their food, their diets maybe were so different because what one served, the other one ate. By the way, it's very interesting, which is why one of the biggest mitzvahs on Pesach is to eat the Pesach sacrifice. Today we do everything to commemorate it because we don't have a temple, so we don't actually eat that today. But we commemorate it by eating the matzah to like the afikomen. That's all commemorating the sacrifice that the Jews would bring, that the Jews would bring at the times of the temple. We ate it in the times of the temple because that's what we brought in Egypt before we left. One of the reasons why God asked us to bring the sheep and bring it as a sacrifice was because it was very dangerous for us to bring a sheep as a sacrifice because the Egyptians worshipped the sheep. So yes, you're not wrong. It's showing you a difference in between the culture of the Jews and the Egyptians, is that we sacrifice what they worshipped. We sacrifice it to our God, to God, the creator of the world, what these people worship. So you see already, even at the times before the Jews came to Egypt, Yosef had to separate them into different areas because their food diet was so different than each other that one served what the other one ate. Right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but sharing with you, it's an insight into the culture and what was going on in life back then. Yeah.
Just one other thing. When the brothers prostrated themselves, was that fulfilling Yosef's prophecy? Or
Yes,
was
yes. We said this a few days ago.
Exactly. Yep.
We said that a few
Explicit
days ago in the Chumash. Exactly. Very good point. When the first time that they prostrated themselves to Yosef, Yosef says, wow, the dreams came true.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a very good point. That when that first happened, Rashi in the Chumash even, Yosef says, I think it's even in the Chumash itself, the Torah itself says, Yosef says, wow, look how true my dreams have become. This is real. This is happening right now. Exactly. Everything was predicted.
Is it possible that, not judging them like God, but is it possible that, he's just trying to see how the brothers have grown, because they already threw him in the well and then they sold him. Here's his actual brother,
Yeah,
that's
so
related
basically
to
it's not, you're answering my question. You're basically saying it's not that, that would be a great point. It's possible that that's the way to look at it. We discussed this in length yesterday. I don't know if you were on yesterday, but you were on yesterday. What? You missed?
I missed out. Yeah, yesterday.
We discussed this at length. We gave a few answers. A few people in the class came with answers, but that's one plausible way to answer it is that the brothers, that Yosef, it wasn't about making them repent. He wanted to make sure that they had changed before he's ready to let them know who he is. He wants to make sure that they're changed people. And then he'll let them know who he is. Maybe he doesn't want to get into trouble again. The example I gave is if you lend someone money and then they don't pay you back, you're going to want to make sure that they're good before you lend it again. So it's not trying to hurt them. It's trying to just make sure that I could open myself up. I trust you. So he wants to make sure he can trust them again. It's possible. That's definitely a possibility. So it would be a great answer. Yes, Josh, thank you. That was great. Anyone else before we move on? All right, let us go on to today's Tanya. I forgot to mention, today's class is dedicated by the Zimmermans. Thank you, Evan and Andrea. I don't know if your mom is there for dedicating today's class.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for making these classes possible. Really appreciate it. Okay. So